Such an interesting experience, I think. Tell us briefly about your overall impression about both this tour and whole China experience. Let me start with you first, Igor. I think this is your first time in China, right?
It is.
What impressed you the most during the tour?
Well, I'll highlight two things. Since it's my very first time, I was open to understand the society and everything that was happening here. And the thing that struck me the most was how peaceful and harmonious are the people, and I could see everywhere, from the subways to the streets, and of course in the factories that we visit, and the digital aspect. So, and that leads to also how embedded the digital culture is in the Chinese society. So these two things combined have impressed me the most, absolutely.
Do you think the development of the logistic industry is also another issue?
Absolutely. Right. I think it's interesting what happened. I can give you the case of Spain. E-commerce before COVID, I wouldn't say it was inexistent, but it was very hard. I mean, you would buy something, even if it was from Amazon.
It takes too long.
You would get to the door and have to sign something. They would to check your ID. And then it was an entire process just to pick your own package. So during COVID, just drop. I trust. I mean, if someone gets my package, it's my fault. Okay, I take it. But and what I saw is that during the pandemic, it grew exponentially. But now people are going back to. I see some logistics problems again, going back to something that was kind of before 2019. So it's still we're in the transition. I think we're in this transition. And when it comes to trust, I think these maybe again this sometimes lack of not infrastructure but lack of understanding of how logistics work, how e-commerce work, how easy it is to give it back and forth. Maybe that's it. And in the case of Europe, sometimes they over-regulate and makes a micro-entrepreneur like in China to say, look, I cannot face this amount of regulation because I don't even know if my business is going to succeed. And I think what's happening here is the proper regulation, is the right balance that if you succeed, you go ahead. If you don't, you try something else. But I'm not going to be the one stopping you from this, and that happens in Europe still.
Yeah, you just
one thing that I think the Chinese government is doing very well compared to Europe, for example, is that in Europe, in the case of all of these points that you mentioned, the European Commission, for example, they try to understand every single point of the technology that sometimes even the ones producing the technology don't understand. And when the regulation comes, it is already outdated, because if you regulate a version 1.0, when you're already 3.0, it's already outdated. I personally, and I believe the truth is what the Chinese government is doing, is that it's based on principles. So I have some principles that, okay, we will protect the children. So if that is a high principle, the regulation has this strong principle of protecting the children, but then it's flexible to adapt to whatever comes up. So that is a way more robust way of allowing entrepreneurs to grow and start the technology, but at the same time, if something goes off track, you stick to your principles. And then that is being flexible, but at the same time, balanced in the way of regulating. And also, I think we are living in the era of echo chambers, where the polarization, I think, is not just in the US. I see that in Spain, Europe, in Brazil, everywhere. And when people are living in these echo chambers, they just get even more extreme about everything. But then, when it comes to globalization, I like these small stories, this real little cultural exchange. I'll give one example, little story. I was in Italy with my sons, and they had a ball, a football ball, and then so I had to play. I said, talk to this boy, we don't speak Italian. I said, just show the ball. And then the other kids would say, can we kind of in Italian play? And then after 15 minutes, they were playing like good old friends. Was that the ball that united? Was just, they were kids. They understand the same language because they're humans. I think when and probably if they were on some platform for gaming or something, they would be arguing or something. But there, in that very moment, they were being truly connected. And I think that is what's missing mainly around the world, is this person-to-person experience.
And also, I think digital technologies are also making the connection even easier, right? Yeah, and like you said, there are long journeys ahead. You know, we have to, there are a lot that we should improve, but also more cutting edge technologies that are expected to come. For example, China has announced its ambition to attract over 100 metaverse companies in China by 2024. And it's also, Beijing is also one of the many Chinese cities that aim to be an international hub for digital technologies. And this here comes to the field of your expertise, I think. As the founder of Metaverse company, what do you make of the market potential of China?
I think it's huge. And as I mentioned in another forum before, I think China is uniquely positioned to adopt the Metaverse in a way that is beyond just virtual reality or augmented reality, but this integration of different technologies, including sensors. When you're talking about smart cities, when you're talking about this immersion that is not, it's not digital, it's not physical, it's hybrid, because it's really a hybrid experience when you are in this Metaverse. And in the case of China, the level of infrastructure development, the level of digitalization in the society, that they easily understand and adoption, it makes it prime for them. And also this entrepreneurial effect, because I usually say that the Metaverse will create three new economies, the creators, the curators, and the connectors, the three Cs, that like we see with live streaming, that when they start to adopt these immersive technologies, are going to be second to nature for them. So if there is one country that can lead the path to how the broad aspect of the Metaverse can be implemented, is China, for all these reasons.
Do you see any opportunities for collaboration with China in the future, in your industry?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I think starting with one of the strongest skills that we have developed in China, like you said, I mean, the manufacturing, some of the best manufacturers of devices that are not only headsets or AR, but everything tech are here, nearby. So they are going to be the ones creating this infrastructure for entrepreneurs elsewhere in the world create new business models. Because the level, for example, we visited a smartphone manufacturer in a smart manufacturing format. This is so advanced. I was struck that they could produce one mobile phone every 20 to 25 seconds. This by itself creates the infrastructure for all of the world to create something new, as long as there is collaboration, as long as there is trade and fairness.
Yes.
I'll say what I said in the beginning. I think is this focus on harmony and balance that I had a hypothesis and I had an assumption that it would be like this, but I couldn't believe what I saw. You know, like going to the parks and see people dancing in the park, but in a very natural, embedded way. So this focus on balance, on creating fairness, that not necessarily, sometimes you have to go to one side or the other, but the goal is to be all the time at the balance. This is unique, and this is definitely one of the most impressive learnings that the rest of the world could take from China, but I don't know if they will be willing to change their societies that the Chinese civilization has done over the last 5,000 years. That is, to me, is inspiration. I think even this dream of keeping people high and be their best I think it's my personal dream. I think it's the personal dream of my family, and I think this is inspirational, and it comes deeply from the culture, and then I could prove that this is the truth.